Well, at the start of the show, I spoke about how Anthony Albanese and Penny Wong had given very different treatment to the deaths of two Australian women in the Middle East. Galit Carbone was killed on October the 7th. She was a Jewish Australian Israeli. But then this week, with Zomi Frankham's death, an Australian aid worker, an accidental death by Israel for which it's apologised, they were furious and expressed that outrage repeatedly. Both deaths, unacceptable, tragic and devastating. The media also, I said, had treated them differently. Here you can see the Sydney Morning Herald's front page from October, or this is today's front page, on Zomi Frankham's death. They say charge soldiers for killer strike, the family demands. Front page of the Sydney Morning Herald. It was front page 2 days in a row. But back on October 12th, let's have a look at their story. Page 7, you can see it there, yellow highlight. A small story on page 7 in the Sydney Morning Herald for the death of the first Australian woman, a grandmother aged 66, in the Hamas attacks of October 7. Joining me now, Sky News host Danica De Giorgio and commentator Jason Morrison. Welcome to you both. Jason, what does this tell you about the different approach from the left media and our left-wing government?
Well, the left media are often very simple in their approach to things. You know, Israel bad, Gaza victims. Hence, coverage is put through the prism of that, and it's quite easy to pick the good and the bad guy when they look at it like that. The Prime Minister and Penny Wong are breeze sniffers. They're looking to say what is what people expect us to say, not what is what's right to say. Because where their rhetoric is going, they're kind of putting themselves in the situation where they're in an odd way saying, well, the solution just simply is, a terrorist organisation stays in command on the other side of the fence, and that's the future of Gaza, and that's the one we're comfortable with, which has never been Australia's position. Australia sort of talks in these lovely motherhood statements about what to do in the Middle East, but, you know, we have a fundamental ally there that has got people around it that want it condemned and wiped out. And the more that the Australian political elite are kind of pushed into this, the more they're more likely to go to the very simplistic option, and that is to sort of say, oh, all we want is peace and harmony. You know, love is all we need. But the truth is, it's not as simple as that.
But also, to get to that position, you can't now have Hamas in continued control because there was a ceasefire before October 7th. I think the interesting point that several have made, including the Australian's foreign editor, Greg Sheridan, and I showed his comments on air earlier, is that this has happened before, even wars where Australian soldiers have been involved. There have been accidental, tragic deaths, inadvertent deaths. Yeah. And we didn't have the anger from Australia, the US and Britain then.
No, and Greg Sheridan made a really good point. In the end, when you go into war, it is a dangerous, unpredictable and very volatile situation to put yourself into. And it is tragic what's happened to this humanitarian aid worker. And sure, there has to be an investigation, but we need to look at this from the broader context. The silence from the left is deafening, not just from the media, but also from the government. The language has been, in my opinion, rather inflammatory and quite frankly disturbing. We had Penny Wong come out today saying, quote, unless Israel changes course, it will continue to lose support. What a ridiculous statement. What exactly does that mean? Israel is not the enemy here. Hamas is the enemy. They were the enemy when they went and killed mercilessly Jewish people on October 7, raped women, and yet the left are silent, as always. And I do think there needs to be an investigation, Sharri, into what has happened to this humanitarian worker. But in the end, Israel has a right to defend itself, and it needs to stay true to its core. There needs to be an investigation, and there will be an investigation. Because, you know, for all that people want to demonise Israel and whatever else, it's a liberal democracy, and that's how it behaves. And most of the left we speak of, and the fringe dwellers, and some of the real simplistic political, tasters of this, they forget that they are in fact dealing with, a country that is, politically similar in many respects to a Western democracy. They want to behave like that. We saw it with the rape, the fact that Hamas raped Israeli women, and the Me Too brigade were completely silent on this issue.
Agreed. Yep. Very disappointing.